the Strength Beyond Struggle podcast and Ending the Silence program of the National Alliance for Mental Illness, NAMI, sponsored by Access. In every episode, we deal with difficult mental health topics, including suicide. So if you're struggling, remember, you can always get help by calling 988. Welcome. I am here with Mark Shafer from Ray of Light Project. And we are going to talk. Mark had his brother.
Right, my younger brother.
Your younger brother who died by suicide.
Correct.
And this kind of followed a series of tough things that happened in your life, but you were struggling with your emotions. You had told me about how that overwhelmed you, and your brother was a catalyst to start you down the path to finding music as a kind of a tool to help you express those emotions. Is that a correct understanding?
Right. So I had started to play guitar in 1984, teaching myself guitar. Never took a guitar lesson. And by 94, when I lost my brother, I was playing guitar proficiently, and I'd also been writing a few songs. And it was through that playing and writing lyrics that I actually was able to express things I couldn't speak openly about because I was told that men tough it up, and that we don't show those things, and that
stiff upper lip and
right.
All of that. Were
Right,
you allowed to show things like anger?
I could, but I had seen enough of it in my time
that wasn't
inside
a
the
direction
family
you
that wasn't my MO. I was just quiet.
So how did you? So what was it that went through? I mean, what was that moment where you kind of went, you really turned to music and said, "This brings me solace"? I mean, what was the spark? What brought it all together?
So the original turning to was alcohol and cigarettes. And so when the family, my son and my spouse at the time, they would get tucked in bed, and I would proceed to self-medicate with the alcohol. And then and only then, when I got enough alcohol, could I actually feel like I could even write down what my emotions were going through.
Really? So you needed that
I needed to numb out a little bit because they were so overwhelming. I just kind of needed to tone down the intensity of the emotions, I guess. And,
or maybe it allowed you to open up and speak about it because you didn't have those. You had such an armor on, right?
It probably took down my inhibitions about being told we don't ever talk about those things. And it allowed me to start to try to write song lyrics about it. And like I said, my lyrics are extremely emotionally charged. I've shared them with others that have gone through loss of a loved one, and the majority of people have been so touched by just the lyrics without even music attached to it. And then when now we go with the component of adding the music to the lyrics, it amplifies the effect. We need to give ourselves permission to feel those emotions. My faith is what gave me my hope. Because of my faith and my belief that, and it's really my knowledge. I know in my heart I'll see my loved ones in heaven again. And that's what keeps me chugging away at it, as well as, my little boy, which I wrote my song Daddy's Little Man, because my son was about 4 years old when I was struggling in some of the deepest parts. And he was that little beacon of hope and light that, I had to be there for him. And he would come up, and his love was unconditional at that point. Little children, they come up and they just give you a hug and they speak what's on their mind, and it's so unstifled and so free.
And isn't that kind of what music does to people too?
Sure.
Opens them up. So it took courage for you to go and make your music public, because now Ray of Light Project is actually, for the audience, Ray of Light Project is a website, and he's got his goal is to use his music and selling his music to raise money to help people get therapy for mental health, correct?
Correct. And as we all know, our healthcare coverage doesn't always give us a lot of counseling sessions, if any. And my frustration was I don't ever want someone to give up hope or lose hope because when they try to go get help, they can't afford it. And so through selling the records, and I plan to sell T-shirts or stickers or hats or hoodies or whatever it takes that we can come up with that we could use to raise money. We want to fund this ability to help and connect with maybe some grief therapy
Maybe even music
associations
therapy.
and music therapy, all these different avenues that are opening up of how I can share not only the healing music, but be able to, and as we
Hope.
grow, is be able to help share some of the burden of getting the help. And it's, I'm still in the ground. I'm getting the out of the nonprofit right now because I've been putting so much into creating this music. The exciting news is we have a target release date of March 21st this year.
Wonderful.
And so that'll be just about 3 years that I've been working with the project. Now, that being said, it seems like a long time. Well, I've lost 3 dear loved ones during that time. Other people involved have lost loved ones. So this grief music, when you get cast into a situation of fresh grief, it becomes extremely difficult and emotional to work with. So there was plenty of times that we had to put things on pause to allow their time to do their grieving, as well as there was growth happening there at times. My passion to want to do my very best has led me to take vocal lessons with some incredible people. It drove me to practice hours of the day.
And that brings me to kind of another question with music. You actually have a unique frequency that you play your
Correct.
music. Can you tell our audience about that frequency and why it's important?
So I tune my guitar to what they call the 432 hertz tuning. Standard music right now is tuned at 440 hertz. And as you travel down looking at frequencies and how they interact with our body and our environment, the 432 hertz is actually in harmony with not only our environment around us, but as well as our body. So it creates a pleasant sounding combination. It's like we've all seen the Bugs Bunny cartoon where they're playing the piano and they go hit that sour note at the end because they know the bomb's connected to the note that's the correct note, and it always just cringes musicians.
Yeah.
Oh, they hit the wrong note. Well, that's kind of how our music is, and it does prevent, in my belief, it prevents us from getting to that calmed down state, that healing state. That if we tune to 432 hertz, the music becomes very calming and soothing. And I've had people say that. I don't announce this when I play at an open mic at a coffee shop or play out at friends, but I will play my music, and everybody says, your music is so relaxing. I can't believe how relaxing your music is. And I account it to, because I'm trying to work in harmony with the music and with people's bodies. And I sing songs that have been on the radio, but I tune them to that different tuning, and they seem to be more touching to people.
And isn't that fascinating with music? So it comes back to, we were talking about how music for you was maybe its own therapy to help you.
It was a music therapy.
And how did that work for you with music as therapy, and how did it help you?
Well, in the early days, after I'd lost Ray, it took me a while to find my support group, Survivors of Suicide. And so when I did finally find the support group, the facilitator, she asked me, how are you doing with grieving your brother's loss? And I just told her, I'm writing really sad and depressing music. And she goes, really? And she was intrigued by it. And she goes, well, do you mind if I read them sometime? And I said, I guess so. I said, well, I couldn't figure out why somebody would want to read sad and depressing songs, but she was very interested. And so I finally got up the courage and shared my song lyrics with her. And, of course, she's crying, Kleenex in hand, and she tells me they're beautiful. I said, what do you mean they're beautiful? They're just sad, depressing songs about losing my brother. And she goes, but you don't understand. You put into words what so many of us are feeling but don't know how to describe.
So we've been talking about how in your therapy group, you were telling them that the leader who was asking you about the facilitator about that you were just doing a lot of sad and depressing songs, and it almost sounds like you were admitting something that you didn't want to tell everybody.
Well, I was told not to express those emotions, and so I did what I was instructed by my father. I'll keep it in. And the interesting thing was, as my facilitator, she was a very big catalyst. She got me to play those songs and sing those songs in front of the group, and then in the long run, I actually played the Arizona State Conference in 1996 never played live in front of anyone, never sang into a microphone in my life. And she, gave me all the encouragement.
How did she get you past, no way is anyone ever listening to this, to going that public?
Well, as I saw when I played in my group, our support group, which that was my close-knit community of people I could talk to about anything because they weren't part of my regular everyday life. There was no risk of any of the things I said getting back to friends or family. It was a safe cocoon. Because
it wasn't safe to talk to your friends and family?
Oh, they were tired of it. By that time, I was still stuck trying to figure out how to process the grief, and I think they moved on without processing all of it in some aspects. Or maybe it's just because I was very connected closely to my brother. We were very similar in a lot of patterns, and we were right next to each other in age. I have 5 brothers, and I was number 3, and he was number 4. And I think he struggled with some of the same challenges I did with.
You might have been a little more sensitive in your family than the rest of your family, who were. A lot of people. We're all wired different. Yeah, we're all wired different, right. And sometimes you just feel like I don't fit in my family. So this group was safe for you, and so you shared a song with them, or you came to a realization with one of your songs that you want to share with us about how to deal with your grief.
Sure.
And that was one of the ones you sang for them?
Right. And so as I progressed with writing my music, I would play the songs. And, a few times they had me come in and play that at the group. And so this is one of the songs early on I wrote.
And do people cry when they listen to your music?
Yeah. Like I said, the Kleenex go off like fireworks. Right out of the Kleenex boxes. And then I'm like, at the time that struck me as odd. I'm like, well, why, if you guys are just so miserable crying, why do you say you love this music? And I always told them, if you leave the room, that would be like a standing ovation for me because I don't want you to make your grief any worse. Mm-hmm. But they all said the same thing. I was able to put into words what they were feeling. And they had never heard a song like that before. And in a way, it was therapeutic for them. Yes, they cried the tears, but there's a healing in crying the tears, which I hadn't fully understood yet. And because I was told you're too old to cry.
So can you tell us a little bit about the song? What was in your mind when you created it?
So, of course, I had to, as a champion overthinker, I had to think of every possibility and everything that led up to my brother's choice. Mm-hmm. And so I actually had to come to the conclusion that I was never going to understand. I could never solve that equation. I could never, put the puzzle together completely because I didn't have all the pieces. And so I wrote the song I'll Never Understand.
Okay.
And it just... and
that's what you're going to play for us right now.
That's what I'll do right now.
Okay.
So deep inside, oh, my heart is broken, leaks out from my eyes, broken since I lost you, don't know what to do, empty since you left me, makes me feel so blue, I'll never understand why I hurt so much inside, never understand, hurt so deep inside, I know my heart is broken, leaks out from my eyes, broken since I lost you, don't know what to do, empty since you left me, makes me feel so blue, I'll never understand why I hurt so much inside, never understand the pain that must have filled your life.
All right.
So that the words on that one are quite intense and beautiful, and
right.
And thank you for giving the context because, someone could think that's a breakup song too.
Of course, yeah. Well, grief, a breakup is a grief of sorts.
It is.
Anytime we have a love in our life that we lose, there's a grief that has to happen. A friendship at work, a significant other, a loved one passing.
That's a good point to make.
Right.
That's a very good point to make.
Right.
So,
I mean, in a sense, we kind of even grieve our old cars when we've been with them for years, and we have to finally retire the car because it's just not cost effective.
oh my gosh.
And it seems weird, but there is a little tiny bit of grief that you need to make peace with.
Well, thank you for bringing that awareness. Yeah, no, you're right. And grief is a tricky, slippery subject. It comes and goes and does weird things to you, doesn't it? Hits you at weird times. And
it's just our love never ends. It just, we can't express it how we used to. So now we have to find a new way to carry that love and express it.
So you were telling me that you wrote another song about your 4-year-old son because as you went through this grief, you found that he was a really important anchor to your healing.
I called him my earth anchor.
Yeah.
And that's so important when we are grieving. We need to find something that we can anchor ourselves onto because it does get very, much like in a storm. We get tossed around by the waves of grief, and it just seems like it's gray and gloomy all the time. And we need that little beacon of hope, that anchor that...
what did he do for you specifically?
So,
I mean, 4-year-olds are adorable.
Well, they're innocent. Their love is unconditional. They'll run up, they'll hug you, they get excited when you come home, they're laughing, and it's just a pure, kind of like a, unconditional, a pure emotions, and just such a brutal honesty too.
Yeah.
Kids are brutally honest. We as parents get embarrassed sometimes when they're honest out in public, But that's part of the fun stories you tell, too, when you get reconnect.
So is that why you wrote this song, was for him to kind of say thank you? Or?
Well, I think it was equally for me and for him. I don't think he knew. It wasn't until years later I played the song for him. In fact, both my children were grown before I actually opened up about my music for them, about the grief and all that, because I wanted them to... I wanted to do my best to kind of give them a normal childhood and help them learn to deal with things on their own. And I don't think they ever understood the magnitude and depth of what I was going through because I was told, we don't do that. And of course, in support group, grief group, I could be expressing all that. And that was my safety valve off the pressure cooker. And it was so important because I knew that was a safe zone. And we all need to find a safe zone, safe person. And if that's a friend you have in life that's close, what a blessing, what a friend. That you can trust with that magnitude of,
So when your little boy heard this song, or when your young man of a boy heard the song, what did he think?
He was just very touched by it. And then, of course, I'll never forget, he learned to play guitar as well. And he says, well, if I knew you wrote songs this good, I would have wrote songs to you. And I said, well, you were into being a kid. I said, it wasn't time to write music. I said, so we may sit down and do some music projects in the future. But
he does help you with the Ray of Light project. He's done some artwork for you.
Artwork for me, and that's his contribution and his way to honor his uncle and to, be there for me.
And his father.
Right.
Yeah. So are you open to playing that song for us?
Yeah. So this is for my son Travis.
I taught him to laugh, and he taught me how to cry. I help him when he walks, and he helps me to get by. When things are just too much, and I don't know what to do, he'll come up and he'll hug me, then I'm not so blue.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I'm a parent myself, and I have 2 daughters. They're in their 20s now, but I can imagine, and I remember them when they were little toddlers, and they're just full of love. They're just like running around, little full of love.
And they're so full of energy.
They
it's
are.
like I wish I could tap into that energy source nowadays.
I know.
Right?
But another thing that helped you get through, you said, is that you did have friends that did come through for you. It doesn't sound like it was a complicated thing with friends. Some understood you and some did not.
So, and I guess, the majority of my work I did with my grief group. and a personal counselor. I had one-on-one counseling, and I can't stress enough how much that counseling is like the safety valve on a pressure cooker we call life. And
They
that's
kind
why
of
I
look
want
at the
to.
world from a different perspective and help you to say, oh, I can look at this problem another way. I don't have to be in my own consciousness about it. I can.
They're not immersed in it. They're completely detached, so they can have a very analytical viewpoint and amazing. They've learned healthy ways to process emotion. So instead of drinking alcohol and numbing out, I found other ways. And of course, the music, the alcohol opened the door because I couldn't give myself permission before. So as I continued down the grief and the healing, my facilitator kind of bluntly told me, you know what, all that drinking, you're passively trying to do yourself in, not actively, and you've got a little boy that's going to need you.
Wow.
And that was the wake-up call. I'm like, you know what, she's absolutely right. So, but I walked away from the drinking, but I still embraced the music. It's like
But that's a healthy coping mechanism kind of thing.
It was like a transition, like an exit off of one freeway onto the next. I was
yeah.
still traveling down the road trying to find my healing, but it transitioned me out of a self-destructive pattern into something that was more constructive.
And that's a lot of times in mental health we talk about that substance abuse, alcohol abuse. That
Sure, well, we numb out.
Yeah, these are you're right, numbing out the real
Right.
problem. And
Sure.
so your music actually helps you to, just by listening to the lyrics and the way you put it together. And now that we understand the context, I could feel the passion, that you just could let it out. It's a safe way to let it out that's healthy and encourages others and empowers others.
Sure.
So that's a cool coping technique.
Right, and other people have said that if they could play that song for their loved ones and say, "This is how I feel, this is what you don't understand," it was hugely powerful, and that's why it was so important for me to want to record this album and then being able to sell it and raise money to fund
Help
counseling
others.
for people, and if it does really well, I'd love to be able to just have CDs that I could hand out to anybody that is going through a grief or a healing of sorts. I would love to be able to give those things out at no cost, and then be able to either if I get funding or anyway, and it's been amazing. There's a lot of creative people that have come in.
So is this friend that
are
you
touched
wrote
by
this
it.
song about that you want to share with us, is this friend of yours, how did they play a role in your journey with grief?
So we joked around we were the Three Musketeers. It was a gentleman, Ernie, who had lost his son, adult son, to suicide. There was Phil Sr., who had lost his son, Tony, to suicide 6 months after I lost Ray. And the three of us would always go to group together. And it became a very, these were all, they were older, my senior, but we were all of the same. You're not allowed to talk about this. You hold us in. And then, so we all had to overcome that challenge. And then we banded together and we lost Ernie first. And then during this album, I lost Phil Sr. And so I'm the last of the Three Musketeers. So I'm out there fighting the fight on my own, but they're cheering me on from heaven. I guarantee it.
Yeah.
So.
This is a song for Phil?
So this is a song really for anybody. I had people that I could call in the middle of the night, and that doesn't normally happen. So to be able to call somebody in the middle of the night and say, you know what, it's been a rotten day, I can't sleep, my brain won't shut off, and they're like, you know what, I've had those nights too, and I'm here on the phone with you till we can get you to get this out. And sometimes just speaking it releases those, thoughts from taking laps in your brain. Because we do tend to fixate sometimes on things, and it's not healthy. But if we can talk to someone, it's like the vent on the pressure cooker. It comes off. So,
And that's what the song's about?
this song is just thanking anybody that helped me on my healing journey of part of my support group. And like I said, I did have one very close friend who didn't understand it, but and he would too. He would tell me you need to get over it, and he didn't understand, but he did his best. So,
Thank you. All right, look forward to it.
Thank you, my friend, for being there again, helping me get through another sleepless night. I call you each night, 'cause something's just not right, and you helped me to see that these things won't be alright. Can't tell my friends, or even mom or dad, I don't know what to do. It's why I called you. So thank you, my friend, for being there again, helping me see that these things will be alright, and giving me hope on another sleepless night.
That is a great song to end this podcast on, because I always love gratitude. Gratitude to me changes everything. But
it actually stops anxiety.
And did it help? I mean, so you have spent many years with grief. I mean, your brother died by suicide in 1994.
But every year in high school.
So we're talking 30
82,
years.
83, 84, I lost someone. So it's been a lifelong journey and losses along the way.
But so right now, do you feel that you're in balance? Do you feel that you're coping better? And what can you give for a message of hope to people who are struggling like you have?
Just don't give up. There's, sometimes in those darkest hours, it's all we can see is the pain and the hurt. But I guarantee you, if you turned around and looked behind you and reached your hand out, you'd be surprised how many people would reach a hand back to you. We just can't suffer in silence. We need to find that one person, whether it's a grief group, a dear friend, or a counselor. We need to find that one person that will take our hand and help us get back up and get back in the fight. Because I promise you, I never thought that I would get over, through this most difficult part of challenge grieving my brother. Mm-hmm. But through the music and what I'm doing now with the Ray of Light project, I don't want to miss that, and I'm glad I didn't make a horrible decision to give up.
Oh, what a beautiful message. Thank you so much, Mark. And I hope our audience gets some hope.
Yeah, yes. Thank you for this platform.
You're very welcome. Yes.
Yeah.
It's okay to just be me. We're all made to be unique. It's okay to have my needs. It's okay to be me. What's easy for others are struggles for me. I do things differently. Doesn't make me broken. It just makes me me. People out there help me through, ones who care about me and you. Through my struggles I find my strength. Feels so good to be me. What's easy for others are struggles for me. I do things differently. Doesn't make me broken. It just makes me me. People helping me to get through have their own struggles too. Even though they have their strength, they are human like me. Through these struggles we build our strength. We all want to feel healthy. Even though we make mistakes, struggles build our strength.